What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Special episode today where we break down the wild card weekend, I guess. You know, we're still calling it that, even though things have changed. Fast Money Labs, thank you for joining us. Maddie, as always, and I am Nick the Picker. Let's get right into this. I'm very excited. NFL weekend. It's the playoffs. Can't be any better.
It's exciting. It's so exciting. I'm just so happy.
Not the most exciting game coming up, but, you know, it can be exciting. We got the Seahawks at the 49ers. The line is currently 9.5 for the 49ers, minus 9.5, obviously, and the over-under is at 42.5. Let's get right into this. Is there anything you guys like? What do you guys think of this game? Connor, why don't you go first?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Happy New Year. And so the first game has the biggest spread, right? And it's a divisional matchup. So, the place I always like to start is market signals. Which way is the line moving? And this line actually opened at 7.5 and it quickly drifted up to 9.5. So that tells me that the sharpest bettors that are hitting this spread are hitting the 49ers. So, at the current line, I think we all agree there's probably not much value there, right? 9.5 for a divisional game. But I personally like the 49ers to roll, and they're playing excellent lately, even with Brock Purdy, right? And Brock Purdy's done a good job not turning the ball over, and they're winning under him. And in the we like to reference the DVOA rankings, right? And there's two versions of those on Football Outsiders. There's the standard DVOA, and then there's something called weighted, which places more weight on recent games. And you'd think for the 49ers, their weighted DVOA would be down under Brock Purdy, but it's actually up. They're actually the number one team in weighted DVOA right now. So obviously they're carried by their defense, but their offense is formidable enough to put up a good amount of points and really be playing from ahead. So I lean the 49ers there. And then on the total, the total drifted down 2 points from the start. So that tells me that it could be played tighter than maybe you'd think, or the Seahawks honestly might have trouble scoring. So that's my current, take on the game. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll go next. I think that's a great point you made. I think when the odds came out, we assumed to be 7.5. We all agree if it came out at 9.5, we wouldn't be shocked either, which is I think why people kind of just brought it up. They said this is a 10-point game, easy peasy. Going to your DVOA points, San Francisco is the best in the league in weighted DVOA. And on regular total DVOA, they're number 2 next to Buffalo. So they did jump Buffalo in those standings, but the Seahawks were number 10. And weighted DVOA, the Seahawks are still 15. They're not a horrible team. Obviously, they got lucky. I don't want to say lucky sneaking into the playoffs, but the Lions had to beat the Packers. They, weren't necessarily the best team by any means, but they had a cool story. And, that's one of the scariest things to play against when you play a team like that has really nothing to lose. But yeah, I think the 49ers, with the line set the way it is, they're going to roll. But something that kind of scares me. We were talking before we did this, and I was like, I wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers won, 31-3. But I kind of wouldn't be shocked if it kind of came down to the wire either. You look at the 49ers when they played the Seahawks earlier in the season, they won 27-7 in San Francisco on September 18th. Obviously, that was the second game of the season. Brock Purdy was not there, but the last game they played against the Seahawks was very close. Not very close. It was an 8-point game, but it was within a score at the end, 21-13. Both these games are to the under, and I think it's a similar game here. I think the under should be around 40, 42. I see a big win by the Niners, but, very low-scoring game to kind of get out early, just completely run the ball, and just, take a lot of game clock away. And I think the Seahawks do have trouble scoring. So maybe a Seahawks team total under or just a full game under is kind of where I'm leaning. Obviously, no plays yet, but that's kind of the way I see it. Just a low scoring. The Niners are going to control the game clock, control the tempo, score early, and kind of hold. Nick, what are your thoughts here?
I think it's a scary game. I think it's a very scary game as far as betting's concerned. And there's a couple things that, looking at the last couple weeks, from that game, from the Seahawks game where they only scored 21, They have scored 37 versus the Commanders, 37 versus the Raiders, and then 38 versus the Cardinals. Not great defenses by any means. You could make a case maybe for the Commanders, but they suck at the same time. I mean, as far as a spread, I would lean the 49ers, but it's just a scary, like you said, divisional game. It's a little scary. It's the playoffs. They don't have to win by 10. They can win by 2 and they still advance. So it's not like they care about the spread. It's probably a game where I just avoid it overall because I could see them winning 44-0. I could see them, winning 20-7 at the same, it's all over the place. Might be a game I live bet if they somehow went down, but I doubt that's going to happen either. Yeah, I mean, the -9.5 is the most appealing thing, and even that's not very appealing overall. But I think it's going to be at least, football. At the end of the day, it's still playoff football. Anything can happen. It should be fun. See what Brock Purdy can do in the playoffs, and a nice game to watch overall.
Yeah, and I will add that the 49ers are actually the best home against the spread team this year. They were 7-2 covering the spread at home, with a 49% return on investment. If you
49, that's not a coincidence.
The same amount every single time, that's pretty solid, And in terms of betting angles, if you did want to place a bet right now, I mean, the two I considered, at first I saw Christian McCaffrey to score and 49ers win was +100 when I looked yesterday. Yeah. And that's tempting on the surface, right? But then you have to remember Eli Mitchell's back to compete with him for touches. So I'm somewhat indifferent on that also because McCaffrey's on the injury report, questionable. He's likely to play, and then the second angle I'm looking at, and I actually locked this in. So I actually did bet this, is George Kittle to get over 3.5 receptions. Dropped today, this prop. And it was -120 widely available. So I hopped on that. And that's because the Seahawks are one of the worst teams defending tight ends, right? We all know that. Yeah. But Kittle has exploited this as recently as a couple weeks ago with Brock Purdy. So Brock Purdy has loved throwing to Kittle. And we have to remember Deebo Samuel's been out, right? So that's probably boosted Kittle's usage a bit in the last couple weeks. Now Deebo's back. But we don't know how effective he'll be. He didn't get many touches last week. So I'm going with Kittle over 3.5 receptions. And if you're feeling risky, right, we said it's likely a low scoring game, but Kittle's been scoring touchdowns, 7 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. So, if I had to pick a touchdown scorer, it would probably be Kittle here.
Oh, I think 100%. I think the running backs, like you said, are a little tough. You don't know who's going to share the rock in the red zone. Do they not let McCaffrey get as much red zone touches to kind of, nurse that injury? I think Kittle's the way to go. That was a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, hell, maybe even 2 touchdowns because he scored 2 touchdowns in 3 of the last 4 weeks. But, that's just pushing it long shot there. But
yeah. By the way, I did sprinkle, for fun, I sprinkled that. It's +1,200 on Caesars. +1,200 for a bet that's 3-1 in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And versus a great target as well. But guys, this has been our Seahawks 49ers rundown. Let us know what you're thinking in the comments below. Like, subscribe, do all that, and we'll see you in the next video.